Hi, I'm Dorian.
And I'm Patrick. And this is
Tales and Tales.
a place where us humans, our familiars,
And possibly even our ghost pals explore everything cursed
cryptic,
and creepy.
today we're going to be getting into Friday the 13th.
Woo!
Yes, Friday the 13th has inherently been seen as a day of bad luck. Dorian, have you ever had anything actually unlucky happen to you on Friday the 13th?
So, I one time bought a ticket. And this ticket was for a $15 tattoo, and I never got to use it. And the reason I never got to use it was because this was in 2020. And that was the same day they announced at my college, my university, that we were no longer attending university and our spring break would be extended, which was good news at the time. It eventually was not good news. It was from the Panini.
Okay. Well, that kind of threw a wrench in my plan. I was about to demonstrate that Friday the 13th isn't inherently unlucky for everybody. Many people have never had anything bad happen to them on Friday the 13th, or really can't explain away coincidence. But that's a pretty universal unlucky happenstance that occurred to many people.
Everyone at my university.
Everyone in the world. Okay, so my debunking was debunked.
That's what I do.
So we'll go ahead and get into a little bit of the history of why Friday the 13th is the way that it is. Yeah, Friday the 13th has really just this creepy history to it. There are a lot of these creepy people, a lot of creepy events that have happened that coincide either around 13 or around Fridays.
I've honestly always thought it's more cryptic. It's very mysterious. Everything's just going to kind of happen. A black cat may cross your path. You're welcome. He's actually good luck, I promise.
I mean, he's never brought me any bad luck. And I mean, other people can't say the same thing. But in essence, when you think of Friday the 13th, you do think of, I guess, really cryptic things where it's it does have an air of mystery to it. Even though bad things might happen, A, you don't know what it is, and B, you don't know how it's going to happen or how the bad luck's going to come about, aside from that the day just has badness involved into it. But the history of why, at least the history that I've found, is actually riddled with a little bit of numerology, a lot of cursedness. Yeah, and
now he finally crossed your path. You almost knocked down the camera.
Actually, yeah, that might not be good for all of you guys because he just crossed your path. So, if anything bad happens to you this Friday the 13th if you're on YouTube watching this or listening to this, go ahead and tell us about it below. But let's go ahead and get into the actual history of why this day is the way that it is.
Historia.
We'll go ahead and start with 13. So 13 has been seen as this indulgent number in Abrahamic religion specifically. Wow, can you imagine that? Abrahamic religion causing problems. Again. I mean that with not much offense to people.
Not much.
Not much.
Just a little.
Just a little bit.
A sprinkle. I might knock down some salt in front of you, but that's it.
I actually told Drake to do the whole walk across your path thing. It's fine. But no, I mean, historically, Abrahamic religion has brought about a lot of not great things. It has brought about some really good things, too. Particularly a lot of, in my opinion, great art, great literature, But I digress. 13. 13, as far as Abrahamic religion is concerned, is a very indulgent number. 12 is the number in Abrahamic religion. For anyone that doesn't know, Abrahamic religion means anything that falls under the Christian, Catholic religion, including Islam anything that follows Abraham and those stories. But yes, in most of these religions, 12 is seen as a number meaning completion. There's 12 months in a year. The 12 days of Christmas. It's always typically seen in a very, very positive light. Which, granted, historically, I have a little bit of beef with that too.
12 apostles.
There are 12 apostles. The months thing I do take a little bit of issue with, just because 12 months actually came about in like the Holy Roman Empire, because two Caesars decided that they were the Cat's pajamas and needed months named after them, so they shortened all the months.
Who are those Caesars?
Julius, July, and Augustus, August. Which is why, like, September is the 8th month. October is the 10th month. Doesn't really match up there. September is the 9th month. My bad. I can't count. There used to only be 10, but, there are 12 now, and that's seen as completion and whatever. Even though also in a full calendar year, there's 13 full moons. But I digress. For the purposes of this research, and as Abrahamic religion stands now, 12 is seen as a number of completion. So 13 extends past that, and it's indulgent. So that makes it bad, just as like 7 is seen as a really holy number, and falling just short of that at 6 is the devil's number. So yes, 13 is seen as this bad, indulgent number. So that already just gives it a little bit of a bad rap. And then Friday is also seen as pretty negative in terms of Abrahamic religion, especially in regards to the Hebrew holy texts. Most anthropologists believe that a lot of the more atrocious things that happen occur on Fridays, most particularly murders, including but not limited to the murder of Jesus.
Hey now, the crucifixion.
Right, the crucifixion, the passing of Jesus, which is how we have Good Friday and Easter Sunday. It's believed that he passed on a Friday and then was resurrected 3 days later, which in my brain, if you're resurrected 3 full days later, that would make it a Monday. But whatever.
Maybe it was early in the morning or right at midnight on Thursday. I don't know.
Okay. However you decide to count days, that's fine. It's like when people are like, oh, it's a 3-day weekend. They aren't it means that they have Friday off. It doesn't mean that oh, it's Friday and I get my 3-day weekend, but I'm at school or I'm at work. Anyway, whatever. I also take slight issue with the whole Easter Sunday thing, just because I know that historically Easter's kind of set up to mask the holiday celebrating the goddess Ostera. And yeah, her holiday takes place the Sunday after the first full moon of spring, which is always Easter Sunday, which is why Easter Sunday changes each year. But anyways, I digress again. For the purposes of this, most atrocities in the Bible seem to take place on Fridays. So that gives Fridays a bad rap. So we have 13 that has a bad rap, and we have Fridays that have a bad rap. Put them together, you're not in for a good time. But Fridays have also been cursed. Yes, you heard that right. Cursed. As in...
Cursed.
Cursed.
She said occur to Ed. On a Friday the 13th.
Okay. Yes, there are 2 curses in particular that I found that were placed on Fridays that Friday the 13th sort of seemed to draw in for people. The first being the goddess Frigg. Frigg, some people say it's Frigga, some people, oh my goodness, that is adorable. Ahsoka is playing with our sage.
I don't think they can see it, unfortunately. This is so sad.
My heart. It is adorable. The goddess Frigg. Friday was named after her. It was her day. This goddess was very well known for helping with childbirth, helping mothers, was highly regarded as this great figure. She also dealt with things like divination and more ethereal gifts. Unfortunately, when a lot of Northern Europe started adopting Abrahamic religion as their dominant religion, these things, especially the fact that a woman was doing these things, divination, any type of etherealism, doesn't bode well for women when they claim to have these gifts, or especially if it's a god. She was deemed a witch.
No.
Yes, a witch.
A woman who has knowledge.
A witch. Terrible, terrible thing. People were told that not only was, she a blasphemous false god, but that she was so bad they needed to completely turn away from her. They needed to expel her from their minds. She needed to be, so fervently disliked for the fact that she is a witch god. Two horrible things for Abrahamic religion, a false god and a witch. And this goddess previously had many followers, people that turned to her in their time of need, that turned to her in their greatest times of joy. Childbirth, not that childbirth is a great time of joy while it's happening.
That's why women scream in joy.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
We're two gay men. What do we know about childbirth? Anyways.
Facts. But she helped mothers. She did all of these great things, and she helped people get in touch with where their future lie, with what was going on in their future, with getting them on a correct path for themselves. A lot of things that we nowadays still do, and a lot of us, will turn to God for, or turn to the universe or what have you to sort of help us realize where we're going. She was that for a lot of people that then suddenly turned on her and decided that she was this awful, hideous, blasphemous thing. So it's believed that this goddess cursed the day that her followers named for her, so that awful things would happen to them for turning away from her. And it would specifically just be around this day. Saturday through Thursday, they were fine. But Friday, she got her fill. That sort of curses Friday for people that believed in old religion. The second curse actually has to do with the game that Dorian plays a lot over on his Twitch channel. So Dorian, what have you been playing recently?
Assassin's Creed.
That is right. For anybody that doesn't know, Assassin's Creed deals with the storyline involving the Knights Templar. If you don't know who they are, they're pretty much an order that was started by the church to keep peace. But why they were created in the direction that they actually went is a little blurry in my eyes, because I believe they were created to sort of be like a policing force, not to be scary, but to be highly revered. And historically, that took a very different turn. But some good things did come out of the Knights Templar. One of them being modern banking. And I am going somewhere with this. Previously, a lot of banking in Europe was done through the church. Who better to trust with your money and your finances than the person that you trusted with your soul, with your eternal life source.
Hey, Susan, I know you haven't been tithing your 10% because we know how much you make. We have your banking notes, and in the church, it says you're making $9 a year, and you're only tithing 8 cents a year. What's up with that?
Yeah, definitely didn't cause any problems for anybody ever. But I digress. It's just fun drinking game. As much as I need to digress with a religious topic, take a shot. So, most people had their banking tied to their church. And the Knights Templar realized it's really inconvenient, especially during, this was the days of like traveling merchants. If you had a family member that lived in a different town, like it was not a 30-minute car ride trying to play I Spy. It was like a 3-day trek if they weren't literally like your neighbor.
My great aunt, who was my grandma's sister, she had to take a horse and buggy to another city, and it took her 3 days, and now it takes us an hour to get there. Just to put that into perspective. It's crazy. It's insane.
Yes. So when that was a little bit more common, getting money and really planning your budget was very, very important and very difficult to do. So the Knights Templar, realizing this, said, hey, let's make a way that everybody can access their money whenever they want, essentially, if as long as they're going to a church bank. And so they devised this way that, you're in Jerusalem and you deposit $3 or whatever their currency was. And then the bank gives you a receipt saying, yep, John has $3 in his account. John then has a trip to what's another city in Assassin's Creed?
Tuscany. Italy.
Okay, Tuscany. Then he has a trip to Tuscany that he's got to do. So John has his $3. He's going to Tuscany, and he has this receipt from his bank saying he has $3 in his account in Jerusalem. So he gets to Tuscany, and he realizes that the 8 cents that he took out for the trip isn't enough anymore. So he goes to the church there, the bank, whatever it is, and he hands them this receipt saying, hey, in Jerusalem, I have $3. So Tuscany says, okay, that means in Tuscany, you have $3. How much would you like? I'd like 4 cents. Here's 4 cents. So you now have $2.96. Wow, brain.
Math and Friday the 13th. 13 is just a cursed number. You can't divide it by 2. That's why no one likes it.
Actually, that's pretty fair. A lot of people in second grade didn't like 13 for that reason.
It's not, isn't it? It's not divisible by anything.
No, it is a square number. So yeah,
13.
It's not divisible.
13 is a square number.
Or wait, no, square numbers are things only divisible by them. Only divisible by themselves. We're getting off topic.
It's a prime number.
Prime number, that's it. Not a square number, a prime number. Anyways, so, you have 294 or 296 here in Tuscany. And when you get back to Jerusalem, you'll only have 296 there. And that pretty much spawned modern banking, where I could go to my bank here, and then I could take a trip to Kentucky, and my bank there will reflect that I have the same amount of money. I don't not have money in Kentucky because all of my money is in New Mexico. So really great invention there. And I promise that this does have a point. So in this new transaction process, the Knights Templar essentially realized hey, there's some pretty good money to be had here. And so they didn't find it necessary because, the Knights Templar was created by the church, but was not the church. They were kind of their own separate entity, a state within a state kind of thing. They discovered that, they didn't need to tell the church everything. So I wished that I could tell you that my research spelled out for me exactly how this process netted them money, exactly what it did, what they cut the church out of. But what I can tell you is that it did cut the church out of some business deals. And the church essentially lost a little bit of money for this. So, the church isn't super fond when their coin purse is lighter than it should be. So some of the higher ups in the Knights Templar who were in charge of this new checking system were brought in for questioning. And questioning around this time meant torture.
Casual.
Just casual. Hey, we're going to bring in for some questioning. Do you mind if we stick some reeds underneath your nails while we do it? Whatever. So they were tortured until they confessed to some egregious sins for the time. Ones that I believe that they had to confess to were theft from the church, not theft of the people that they did business with. That was never brought up. As far as they were concerned, every business deal that happened with the Knights Templar and with the church were on the up and up and were totally fine. They didn't want any of that name disgraced. But these specific men stole from the church. They had to confess to, I believe, blasphemy. They had to confess to, hi buddy. They had to confess to one of the weird ones, sodomy. Don't know how that has to do with money and banking, but it did. And, after a period of time, eventually all of them broke and they confessed to everything that they were accused of. And then they were brought in front of the papal court. And for those that don't know, anything that has to do with papal means that it was done in front of the Pope.
With some paper.
So all of these men were taken to this papal court in front of the Pope and in front of this piece of paper. And they essentially all recanted their statements. They said, we were coerced into giving these confessions in front of you and God. We are innocent. We demand that we have a righteous trial, that we are tried justly for this, and that God... I was on a roll there for a minute, and then Merlin tapped the mic. We demand that we be judged in front of God, and that he find us guilty or innocent. To which the Pope said, sure. And then they had a farce of a court hearing, of a trial. Many men, attorneys, came forth and said, you know what? We believe in what the Knights Templar is doing. They are messengers for God. They are harbingers for God. We believe that they're innocent. We don't think that they did anything wrong. Legally, we know that they didn't do anything wrong. And they were offering their services to these men for free. To which the church said, okay, that's fine. But remember what we did to them? And then many of the attorneys backed out. So essentially all of these men from the Knights Templar were trying to defend themselves in front of a court that had already found them guilty once. And quickly after, they were found guilty again in front of God and had to receive various sentences.
Off with their head.
Actually, kind of. A lot of them were, met their end by this verdict. One of which, I wish I could remember his name. For anybody watching this on YouTube, we will put his name on the screen. That way you can actually look up his specific story if you so choose. But one of the Knights Templar that was higher up that had to deal with, this new checking system, he was sentenced to die by burning. And so he was put on a pyre in front of everybody. And before he burned, he decreed that anybody involved with this sham of a trial would follow him to the grave within the next year. And before the year was up, everybody that sat on that trial died. Thus leading people to believe that the day that he was burned, which was a Friday, was cursed.
Cursed Fridays.
Cursed Fridays.
They're supposed to be so good. That's typically the day that everybody gets off of work.
But it's also the day that a lot of people indulge in a lot of debauchery. They go out Friday night, they have fun, they recover on it from Saturday, and then by Sunday they're all good and going to church and whatever again. So, it's Friday is also very indulgent day, just like the number 13.
Those confessionals are very full after Friday.
They're very full on that Sunday, yeah. So that, to the best of my knowledge, was what I could find regarding the history of Friday the 13th. There were a few interesting and, as I said before, creepy instances of bad things happening on Friday the 13th. I'm actually going to pull them up on my phone right now because that's where I have my notes. And I know that I won't be able to recall all of these dates just by memory. So if in the video I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Although if you're listening to this on Spotify, you wouldn't have known the difference if I hadn't told you, would you? Would you? You're actually probably mostly hearing Merlin's caller. So yes, and I do want to throw out there that obviously this list does involve people that have met an end. It involves, boats sinking and places having bad things happen to them. And of course, those things do just happen. They happen on any day of the week. They happen regularly, unfortunately. But, these are just some big ones that happen to coincide with the Friday the 13th. Was Friday the 13th the cause? I can't say. That's for anyone to speculate. But let's go ahead and get into this list. So first, on Friday, July 13th in 1821, Nathan Bedford Forrest was born. Now, if you don't recognize that name, because I can't imagine a lot of people are, which if you do recognize that name and you're not some kind of historian, I really have to question your interests. Nathan Forrest was the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. Now, I'm going to also throw this out there. If you don't know the hierarchy, and I know that I just made fun of people that, have this interest. Not that I had this interest, I found it out through happenstance. But if you don't know the hierarchy system of the KKK, look it up at your own discretion. For a group that's so hateful and so atrocious in just what they do and what they believe and historically what they have done, reading about them is like reading a fantasy land. Their highest ranking member is called the Grand Wizard.
They should just call him Gandalf.
Do not associate that wonderful name with this awful group.
Where do you think she got the inspiration from?
Are you talking about Dumbledore?
I don't know who I'm talking about. I wasn't allowed to watch these things as a child. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness. And then in 1940, on Friday, September 13th, Buckingham Palace was actually bombed in World War II. Once again, was that because of Friday the 13th? Or did someone just decide, hey, this is a good day, we got this plane free? Let's go.
Ask the Queen.
You know what? Next time I go to tea with her, I will. On Friday, March 13th of 1964, I'm going to mispronounce her name because I don't think I've ever actually said it correctly. Kitty Genovese met her demise. For anybody that doesn't recognize that name, this case sparked a really interesting psychological discussion because the case essentially is this girl was walking home from work, and when she reached her building, she was viciously attacked. While she was being attacked, a man hollered out his window, hey, leave her be, leave her alone, something to that extent. And the man fled. And so Kitty tried, again, just getting inside, trying to get away from her attacker. And her attacker came back, and she unfortunately passed on.
That gentleman wasn't very gentlemanly.
No.
He just hollered out the window and he didn't even go down to help her. He saw the person run away probably, and he's just like, she's fine now.
Yeah, that does confuse me. I'm like, if I saw someone get attacked, like legitimately attacked, I'd probably like run outside, or I'd make sure that she got inside. Whatever. This did spark a lot of debate because it's believed that the second time that she was attacked, everybody, including that same man, could hear her screams, could see what was going on. And nobody did anything. Everybody ignored this woman who was having these awful things done to her on her way home from work. And no one stepped outside their door. No one hollered, aside from that one man at the beginning, for him to stop. No one tried to save her after the attack was finished. She was just abandoned by all these spectators. And it led to this really interesting psychological discussion where people started engaging or indulging, I guess, this theory about like group shock, where all these people don't want to do anything because no one else is doing anything because it's so heinous and you kind of can't believe it. And it sparked some discussions around like why people at school will just like stand and watch a fight and no one will get involved.
They get involved. They all yell, fight, 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 fight.
True.
I feel like that's getting involved, and that's why all of them get in trouble too.
Fair enough. But yes, this story was actually first published in the New York Times, where they made that claim that all these spectators were there. They all saw what happened, and no one did a single thing about it. Well, you see, the thing with that is that if everybody saw it, then they'd probably all be able to at least give a description of the guy and help them catch him. He was eventually caught. It wasn't immediately after. It was actually I believe like a year or two later, it was a completely different crime, but they caught him, questioned him, and then digging into a little bit of his past, realized that he had gone to jail previously for a very similar case. And he admitted to her demise as well as the demise of two other women. But, because the New York Times had published this article stating that I think it was like 34 people or something similar to that had witnessed this thing happen and done nothing, forensic analysts or psychologists reinvestigated almost immediately after and walked through the events of, where she eventually met her end and where the man had initially seen the beginning stages of the events take place. And they realized that there was absolutely no way that anybody could have seen anything because she originally tried going in the front of her building, which is where the assailant caught up to her. He had been following her for a while, but at her building, you're standing outside, you're fumbling through your keys, you're trying to get inside. It was like 3 a.m. or something. So she was obviously tired as well. And he attacked her. And the attack included wounding her pretty severely with the sharp object. And, the man hollered outside, "Hey, leave her be," whatever, and he ran away. So she thought her better bet to get in would be going around the back. I don't know if they normally kept that door unlocked or why she thought that was a better idea than out front where someone obviously could see her. But yes, she started going around the back of the building, and that was where she got her fatal wounds. And from there, considering the time of night, the lighting that the street offered and that the building offered, there was almost no way that anybody had seen anything that could have gone down. There, of course, could have been a chance that someone heard her, but that's all up to speculation. Far cry different than what the New York Times had originally posted. And then the last instance that I have is that the largest passenger ship had unfortunately wrecked and sank on a Friday the 13th. It was very cold. It had hit an iceberg. It cracked in half. It's just, oh no, wait, that was the Titanic. That was a completely different ship. This actually occurred in 2012 on Friday, January 13th.
This ship actually, the entire reason why this ship ran aground off the coast of Tuscany, by the way, off the coast of Tuscany, was because the captain was trying to woo a woman by showing his navigational skills. That really backfired. He was also charged with abandoning the ship because he refused to go back to the ship when he was the first one to get off after he didn't want to evacuate anybody. And passengers just started lining up at the lifeboats by themselves because they knew something was going on. And he's like, no, we don't have to evacuate. Wait, we're fine. No, they were not fine. That ship literally sank, ran aground. They didn't even get to tow it away for 3 whole years. That's how bad this crash was.
I'm pretty sure he could have just impressed her by showing her something different. Give her a good tour of the captain's quarters. Give him a good tour of the captain's quarters if you catch my drift. Yeah, didn't have to, endanger hundreds of lives. But
yeah, 32 people, I believe, did not make it off that ship that day.
That is unfortunate.
Not as bad as the Titanic, but still pretty bad. Now, was any of this that we just discussed due to Friday the 13th, or was it all just coincidence that it happened on a Friday the 13th? Once again, not for us to decide, but definitely something to think about. Plus, we have our, 2020 example of the panini happening on a Friday the 13th. Didn't really happen on a Friday the 13th. I just got the information on a Friday the 13th.
Fair. I think that might also be the day, though, that my work shut down, so... But that could just be me speculating because it's in my head now. So, did you learn something from our tale today?
Whatever you took away, remember, be cryptic, not creepy.
Join us next week. We're going to be starting a series where we'll be investigating all 50 states' state cryptids. You won't want to miss it. And John has his $3 in his account. He's going to Tuscany.